Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton. I want to also make sure that I don't have the mute button on this morning for Lions Talk Live. Sorry if I'm in a little bit of a scramble mode this morning. I got some news this morning when I got up, wanted to do what I could to verify it. And, not everybody gets up at 4:30 in the morning, so I have to kind of wait on some people. Any rate, if you haven't yet subscribed Lions Talk Live, I got to go through this normal stuff. You guys all get it. Please consider doing so. Really trying to make a push to get to 4,700 before the kickoff on Thanksgiving. If you could do your part to help make that happen, that would be great. Also, if you would, if you're enjoying the show and content, please hit that thumbs up button as well. All right, one last thing I got to get into. If you're new to Lions Talk Live, or maybe you just hadn't thought about this part before, outside of being a coach, outside of being a YouTuber and a scout, I am a realtor and have been for over 30 years. So if you're considering buying or selling property in the state of Michigan, can be vacant land, a house, shopping mall, whatever it may be, give me a call or text. Let me work on your behalf and try to save you some money. 269-998-2384. Also, if you live outside the state of Michigan, I can still work for you or with you. We would have to talk about that. But I want to really get into the crux of today's show. And again, sorry if I know normally I get the thumbnail and everything posted on YouTube, maybe 20, 30 minutes ahead of time, but I was really having to fight the clock on this stuff. So, all right, let's get into it before we get into the comment section. Sorry, guys, just want to make sure I get this out of the way and unabated. So apparently we all may have noticed that Goff did not have his best game by any stretch of imagination, even though he was Captain Clutch in the fourth quarter. And I did some digging around what's going on. He seemed off to me. There are a couple of things in play. One of them I'm not going to speak on. That's a family matter for him, and I'm just going to leave that one alone. But Friday, apparently the Lions had been, excuse me, and we've talked about this on Lions Talk Live. They have been in contract talks with Goff. We all anticipate he's going to get an extension, and we all assume that's going to happen. But they did break off talks until the end of the year, or excuse me, end of the season. So is that standard in the NFL? I would say it's fairly normal, but apparently over the bye, his representation and the Detroit Lions did get into a lot of things. From what I'm being told, the sticking point is going to be the following. The Lions want a 3-year contract extension. Goff's representation is at a 4, wants a 5-year extension. I don't think either of these things shock anybody. The Lions want to be invested in him for 3 years and then have an option, almost like on a rookie contract deal, for a 4th. His representation, Goff's representation, wants a 4-year deal with an option for a 5th, and also other language in there, like no trade clause. I mean, a lot of that we can expect. Lions' annual salary, from what I'm being told, they're wanting to pay him around the $44 million a season amount. Goff's representation, unsurprisingly, wants a little bit more. And I get that. I mean, that's part of the negotiation process. So nobody should be picking sides on this, saying, hey, the Lions are evil for not offering more. Goff's representation's evil for wanting more. That's just part of normal business. And I don't care what business you're in. Nobody's coming in right away and saying, this is what I absolutely want, take it or leave it. That's just not usually how it plays out. So the Lions want to offer him, around $44 million. His representation wants a little bit closer to 50. So ultimately, does this thing probably get worked out? Yes, it does. But is it going to be the 5-year deal Goff wants? Probably not. Is it going to be the 3-year deal the Lions want? Probably not. But they're at the point in the season where I think both sides wanted to break off conversations. They were just until, I guess you could say they want to table it until after the season. There's 7 games left in the regular season. Obviously, the playoffs, both sides want to focus at this point just on the playoffs. Now, it's a risk by both parties. I think we can all agree upon that. If Goff comes out and just kicks if he just does really well the rest of the season, then you know what? That price tag probably going to move up a little bit. If he has a few more games like last week against the Bears, or last weekend against the Bears, maybe that price comes down a little bit. So it's going to be, who knows where this thing's going to go. I don't know. You don't know. None of us do. But if you want to say, hey, he was off, Goff was off a little bit against the Bears, some of it, I think we can all agree, you got to give the Bears credit for, catching Ben Johnson and Jared Goff off, with some of the things they did schematically. We talked about that yesterday. I'm not going to regurgitate it today. The other part of it is I do think Goff mentally was a little off base there. So, all right, with all that said, let's do what we normally do here on Lions Talk Live. Let's get into the comment section, talk to you guys. John Snow, greetings and salutations all. Same to you. Mile Marker, good morning. Same to you. Hopefully you're having a great one. Robert, KC should have won. They should have. Yeah. And unfortunately, they didn't catch the big touchdown bomb. And, well, is what it is. Kurt, well, today's going to be a topic. Yeah. And, Goff, I think most of us can agree he's far superseded anybody's expectations for him. Now, with that also being said, I think we do need to give Brad Holmes a lot of credit. He wanted Goff, and he stuck with him. But let's also understand Brad Holmes was a part of the regime that traded up to get Goff number 1 overall in the NFL draft. He's seen him. He probably felt pretty good about his abilities to scout and ascertain players' strengths and weaknesses, et cetera, et cetera. So, and we can all say that Brad Holmes has done incredibly well in the NFL draft while he's a Detroit Lion. So he sees things in Goff that Sean McVay did not. Took him, he even got the Rams to give him a first-round pick to take him off their hands. And I do think ultimately Goff is going to be the long-term answer here. It's just going to come down to contract talks, negotiations. The only thing I would say that caught me off guard from this information is it was, to me, a little odd that the Lions only wanted to go 3 years on him. Now, is that a tell that they're trying to groom a younger quarterback? They think, the heir apparent after 3 years is going to be, someone else? Could be. Could it be also just a contract negotiation ploy saying, hey, we know Goff's representation is going to want whatever, $50 million in 5 years. We need to have some sort of leverage to try to narrow them down a little bit on that price tag. That's also a possibility. So I'm not picking sides one way or the other. I'm just telling you the news. All right, Mile Marker, after last night's game, do you think the asterisk from game 1 ought to be deleted? Yes. I don't think there should have ever been one, Miles, but it is what it is. Burrs, good morning, Lions faithful, and Dan the man. It's a due day. Yes, it will be. And my throat is particularly dry this morning just from being up and talking so much, and then also coaching yesterday. I'm a little hoarse. I'm going to be a little bit more hoarse after today as well. So Jessica laughing at Mile. Yeah, I got that, man. Ryan, Goff is 21-21 as the Detroit Lions starter. Impressive because he started 5-27. You've got an outstanding point there, Ryan, and you often do. So, the fact that not just, Goff, but this entire regime, think about what they inherited, what they took over. Can you remember that first game against San Francisco? I sure do. And none of those receivers that were starting, I think, are even in the NFL anymore. And that says something, what he had to work with. And he said, and don't hold me to this, but I remember he set a couple team records in that particular game, and with guys that aren't even relevant or on the team anymore or even in the NFL anymore. So, Ryan, you got an outstanding point, my friend. All right, Robert, Detroit has a better offense than KC or Philly. Defense, not even close. Yeah, and right now, Robert, I think we all get the defense has some limitations. You guys have heard me talk about it. I think they just lack any kind of playmaking ability. Hutchinson, I think he's an elite player. Is he top 5? Maybe not, but is he in the next tier down as far as defense fence? I think you can make an argument for that. I also think Hutchinson is starting to show signs of getting worn down from overuse. They've got to do something in this offseason, whether it's free agency or whether it's through the draft or whether it's, waving a magic wand. I don't care how they do it. Just get him some help because you're putting a lot of miles and a lot of wear on this guy. And I get when the game was on the line against the Bears at the end, he gave it all. He dug in, got that intestinal fortitude, and produced the play. But you're going to have to get him some help. We all get it, and it can't but just be on the defensive line, although that would help a ton. I do think they need to address the cornerback room. Linebacker play, I guess it depends on where you go in today's NFL. A lot of teams don't really look for elite linebackers. Some do. I do think Anzalone and Campbell will be, I think, good enough, especially as Campbell continues to grow and develop. But make no mistake, Barnes has played pretty well too. So we'll see what they do in the offseason. We got what we got for now. Maybe we, sign a free agent person or two. Maybe Houston and CJ Gardner-Johnson come back and help out exponentially. Whatever it is, the defense is probably not as strong as the offense, I guess, to your point. Bergs, this would be so freaking stupid if this really happens. And Bergs, like I'm saying, and I look in the comments before I went on the air, so I think this is just contract negotiating between both sides. I don't think they're going to move on from him. I mean, if they do, man, they better really have a plan, because you guys heard me talk about it before. I think the Lions would have been a very good franchise throughout the 90s and probably the early 2000s if they would have simply kept either A, Eric Kramer, or B, instead of signing Scott Mitchell, going for Warren Moon. And yes, Warren Moon was an option. It's just they decided to go with Mitchell. And I get Mitchell had, the size, the arm and stuff like that. He had a heck of a run with Miami when Marino went down and all that stuff. But man, oh man, that one single mistake, and that's where I'm going with this, that one single mistake, I think kept the Lions from really elevating to go to the next level in the 90s. And obviously we all know where the franchise went after that. So Bergs, ultimately, I think we will keep Goff. I want to be real clear for all the haters who are going to come after me and stuff like that. It's just, hey, they broke off talks. It probably had some sort of emotional effect on Goff. Probably I guess, Bergs, if we look at it, if I'm Goff, and I guess I didn't think about this before I went on the air, but look what happened to him in LA, and he got booted. He probably feels like he's finally got a home here. He's safe, secure, can focus, on all sorts of things. And then what happens, 48 hours before the game, your agent comes in and says, hey, both sides are going to table contract talks until the end of the year. So maybe does he go a little bit like, man, here I go again. Or, man, I thought I was safe here and everything. Didn't have to look at, relocating. I bet you there's some truth to that. But, I'll also say this. I don't think the kid's going anywhere. It might not be the contract he's absolutely, or his representation, I should say, absolutely wants, but I think he ain't going anywhere. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Mike, what do you got? Morning all. Morning to you. Phil, doobie doo. I like that one, Phil. That's a good one. George, normal stuff. Talks go on and off. 100%, George. Yeah, it's not unheard of for something like this to happen. I'm surprised they didn't do it at the end of the bye week and just say, hey, everybody, let's table this for now and wait until the season's over. That would be more, I'd say, normal protocol, but it's not uncommon to get into this part of the season where contract talks are tabled. So good point. Zach Morris, good morning. All right, same to you. Southwest, what do we got? Hi, all from Phoenix, Arizona. Man, I hope you're having a good one out there. It's probably got to be terrible weather and horribly cold, right? But Southwest, what time is it? You guys are what, 2 hours behind us? So yeah, about 5 o'clock in the morning. So Ryan, what do you got? Jalen Reeves-Maybin played one defensive snap the whole game. Guess which one? The safety? Yeah. I would have to check on that. Well, it had to be because he was on the field when Hutch punted it. So yeah, it had to be that one. Well, man, he's making a good argument to be out in the field more, isn't he? James, good morning, Coach. Happy Tuesday. I'm confused by everyone saying they want Sue back. To me, he was a dirty player, getting penalties all the time. He doesn't fit the team at all. Lions 31-23. I will agree with you. During his time in Detroit, it'd probably be fair to say he straddled the line between right and wrong pretty good, and sometimes stepped one way a little bit more than the other. But to be fair, and maybe it's just because he's not lying and I'm not privy to it. But after he left Detroit, I don't really think he was noted for a bunch of that stuff anymore. So, and again, maybe he did in Miami or wherever else he's been, the Buccaneers and stuff. I just don't remember hearing about it as much. And so you guys would have to let me know. All right, Justin, what do you got? What's up, guys? What's up, Justin? Good morning. Rob, morning, Dan. I would be thankful if Ben would put some old school deep routes into Thursday and catch the Packers off guard, hit them and 5 receiver sets. Yeah, Rob, I think you're onto something because I know I talked about it Sunday in the postgame show and then yesterday as well. I think you're going to have to loosen up some coverages more and more because what the Bears did wasn't by happenstance. They clearly watched a lot of film and said, yeah, Ben Johnson, Jared Goff, they prefer these routes. We are going to sit in zone, have our quarterbacks, not spy Goff from a running standpoint, but try to take away the intermediate 5 to, I guess you could say, 10-yard routes over the center of the field. And if you watch the corners, how they're releasing and the safeties are coming up taking the flats, at least the one safety that came up, they did play a lot of single high safety. They were trying to anticipate and jump on those shorter routes. Now, how do you combat that? To your point, Rob, you got to take them deep. Now, because of that, later in the game, when the game was on the line, part of the reason why Jameson's route was so wide open in the end zone is everybody had been nickeling and diming or trying to jump on those shorter routes that, you just kind of get people in a flow and a groove. They get them conditioned to expect certain things. If you checked out the Bears safety, and don't hold me to this, I want to say it's Jameson underneath on the route and whoever on top, I don't remember offhand, maybe it was Reynolds. When Reynolds releases on the deep out to the sideline, everybody goes with him, and Jameson, who's underneath him, goes up and out in the post route in the end zone, and nobody's left to account for him because they all bit on the shorter route like they had been all game. So to your point, I think it's an outstanding one. You're going to have to loosen up that coverage. You're going to have to get people out of that, or you're going to see a lot more of it. So good point. All right, hey, what do you got? Due morning to all. When and how will AG fix the running QB issue? It will haunt the Lions all the way through the playoffs. I'll say this. I think it's going to be on topic for the Lions defense until they get different personnel. In Aaron Glenn's defense, though, I do want to say this to him. He did move the defensive ends out a little bit wider. He did bring the backers into those gaps to help him take care of it after whenever it was the end of the first quarter, early part of the second quarter. That's when he did it. And at that point, Fields really only broke containment on passing situations when the Lions only had 4 people going in. There was too much time for him and too many gaps for him. So from a just pure design running component, the Lions shut it down. And so give Aaron Glenn some credit for that. Let's also be fair. Justin Fields is a matchup nightmare for most teams. Now, if you have a lot more athletic linebackers or defensive ends that can maybe keep pace with him more, then, you can probably do some things schematically that we're just not capable of because we don't have those. Look at most of the defensive linemen we've drafted. They're all a certain type of build, and they're built to stop the run. Those guys are a whole lot less effective against mobile quarterbacks. I think we all get that in Detroit. I think James Houston is about 3 weeks out from returning. I did a report on that. I want to say last week or the week before. You guys can look it up if you want to. And when he gets in, is he going to be the tell-all, be-all for fixing that issue? No. Will he help a lot? Yes, he will. But the other problem is Houston and Hutch, while I think that will help each other like it did last year, there's just not really a whole lot of depth behind them that are similar in that nature. Maybe Bruce Irvin, like Dr. Detroit was saying, his AARP card can help out. But if he can, I think it's going to be on a limited basis, maybe 15 or so snaps a game. One Funky, what do you got? Good morning, all. Good morning to you. Hold on. Screen went blank for a second. Chase, what do you got? It's kind of funny how many other Detroit Lions YouTubers are getting mad at you talking about the J.J. Watt called or the, quote, inside information. Lions syndicate and Rocked On, we're calling out. I mean, let them, man. I mean, I've spoke on this before. I've been a reporter long enough so I can tell you can get stuff out there, and somebody, especially if they don't get it first, they're going to be on it. So it is what it is. I mean, I'll put it this way: you guys make of it what you want. If you think it's crooked stuff or whatever, then go with that. If you think there's truth and reality to it, then go with it. So all I do is I get info, I pass it on, I let everybody else ascertain what to make of it. So the only thing I will say to you, Justin, though, I was talking to Mike about this last night, him and a couple of the other guys. I was saying they might not like it, but boy, oh boy, they all sure spent a lot of time making thumbnails and trying to promote those contents to get views. So maybe they just want to be angry to try to get views on it. So go with that. All right, Don Berg, greetings and salutations. Take care of business Thursday. 1,000%. Get out there and beat down the pack. Get 9-2. Get a mini bye. Then go into the games after that. One Funky. We don't all expect Goff to get an extension. Yeah, and man, who knows what Brad Holmes is going to do. The only thing I can tell you is he clearly saw value in Jared Goff. He brought him in. And again, to repeat what I said, earlier in the show, he was a part of that regime that traded up heavily from wherever the Rams were. I want to say number 12 to number 1 to get him. Now that they got him there, him and McVay fell out of favor with each other. And let's be honest, is Jared Goff an all-time great quarterback? No, he's not. Is he a pretty good quarterback? Yeah, I think so. If he would have been on like the 90s Lions teams, would those teams probably been more successful? I think you could make an argument over some of the guys they had, like Mitchell or Bob Gagliano, or I hate to say it, but even Rodney Peete. So from that standpoint, is he great? No. Is he bad? No. He's going to win you a lot of games, and it will be a whole lot easier to get worse than Jared Goff than it would be to get better than Goff. And I think therein lies the problem. You've got a pretty good quarterback here. Scale to 110, I don't know. I'd say he's an 8. He's not 9 or 10. 9 or 10 to me, that would be an elite quarterback. But he's not far off him either. So Juan Funky, I don't know what will happen. I do tell you what I think. I do think he's going to get an extension in Detroit just because you're going to have somebody under center that you can trust. It's just going to come down to the number of years, and that sounds like where they're at with things. Lions want to give him 3 years. Goff's representation, I get it, wants 5 years. And they're probably going to meet in the middle at 4 years. My guess is 3 years will be guaranteed. The 4th year will be a situation where the team can buy out or get out of the contract if needed. That's anticipations on my part. That's me doing detective work. I want to be clear on this. There's nothing I've got that says this is what's going to happen. All I can tell you is Detroit wants to give him 3 years. His team, his representations wants 5 years. So there we go. All right, Ryan, Jalen played the last play, the Hutch safety. Yeah, impressive or just a prevent defense? I think probably prevent defense. And if you watch Justin Fields when he drops back there, he is clearly laser lock focused on that left side of the field going deep. My guess is if you expand out the video, DJ Moore is going deep there, and he's going to launch that puppy to him. So he was unfortunately being a younger quarterback, and in that moment, he was oblivious that he had no clue Hutchinson was right there and coming for him. So that's obviously why the strip sack, fumble, and all that stuff. All right, Southwest Lions. The Lions can win a Super Bowl with Goff. I would agree. You can never be strong enough in the trenches, though. Keep trying to build the talent and depth on both lines. Yeah, and Southwest, my point with the Goff situation is this. Having watched the Lions for eons, I would say the 90s Lions were pretty damn complete everywhere other than one spot, quarterback. And that's the problem I think the Lions are going to be in. They're going to have to pay a bunch of dudes this offseason, and then the next offseason, and the season after that. So I think, to me, the 3-year deal that apparently the Lions are offering Goff makes some sense, that they can probably work with those contract numbers enough to keep those guys around while keeping Goff. After that point, you probably get to the point where now you have to pay 4 straight draft classes of some pretty good players, such amount that maybe they're a little, maybe it's time to start looking for ways to save money. And like we said, Goff is a dang good quarterback. He's just not an elite quarterback. So what do they do at that point? Of course, the opposite is also true. Every year you get into that contract, its value is going to be a lot less. We're all going to say, man, a $45 million quarterback next year, that's expensive. 3, 4, 5 years from now, $45 million is going to be pretty cheap. It's just the nature of things. We'll see what happens. Ryan, Hooker time. I like the sound of that. I'm just going to leave that one alone and say, that's a strong possibility. Hooker could be, man. And maybe the Lions coaching staffs see something in him. My only thing is he's not on the field doing things. Really, how knowledgeable can they be on this kid? But to your point, Ryan, maybe that's why they're wanting a 3-year offer to Goff, is just so they could go out there and say, hey, Goff, you got 3 years to fend this kid off. If at that point, somebody or Hooker hasn't supplanted you, then we're going to sign you again to another contract. I don't know, man. I mean, who knows what's going on there, but we'll see what happens. I do love that line, though, man. All right. Mr. Nico, good morning, everyone. Goff will mostly go wherever Ben Johnson goes, in my opinion. You may have a good opinion there. I can see them both going to either the Panthers or Raiders. I'm going to break my rule and put my trust in a hooker. Man, everybody's going to be on this one. Mr. Nico, here would be my thing though. If let's say Ben Johnson does take the Panthers, does that mean you're giving up on God, I can't think of his name, Bryce Young already? I mean, to me, that seems extreme, especially what the sense of what they gave up for him. Now, to your point about the Raiders, I know I mentioned I thought that would be a good spot, or the Chargers, but you're not going to probably get rid of Herbert. But to your point with the Raiders, that would seem like an ideal setup. If Goff and Ben Johnson are really going to leave, that seems like the place they're going to. That would be a perfect fit for both gentlemen. I mean, Goff would be able to drive back to LA in 3 hours if you want to, or take a short flight. So you do have a good point there. Now, what would the Lions want in compensation for Goff? Man, that I don't know. But my worry too, just from a Lions standpoint, would be selfish and say, you let Goff walk. I mean, you better be damn sure that Hooker is going to be the replacement in the heir apparent. So we'll see. But it would free up a lot of cap for a couple seasons. All right, what do we got here, Ed? Good morning, Coach. Is Love a mobile quarterback, or does he just move around a lot in the quarterback in the pocket? I mean, Ed, he's mobile. I mean, he can get out and run. Is he as mobile as Justin Fields? No, I don't think that. But he can escape the pocket. It's just I don't think it's something Jordan Love innately tries to do. I mean, he does it from time to time. But it's not like Justin Fields where, Justin Fields, you give him any kind of room, that dude's taken off and gone. And you could probably say Lamar Jackson and Steve Young were like that. If you remember what could have been a Lions great quarterback, Mike McMahon, all those guys, just the way they're wired, you gave them any kind of space. Yeah, they were looking to bolt and take off. So where I think Jordan Love is more of a passer who at times, if he sees an opening, will take off and run. All right, Justin, I was laughing at the Bears game because Goff wants his cash, and here we are 3 interceptions later. And I was saying, now Goff will take $40 million a year. Yeah, and to be fair, I've talked about it in the post game show a little bit yesterday. Some of those passes or interceptions, you can't blame him because I remember Laporta's slant. He was displaced by a Bears linebacker, so he was knocked off the timing route. The tip pass, interception, I get that. But to your point, Justin, the one he nearly had, the house call pick 6 in the end zone, that wasn't a tip. That wasn't a guy displaced. That was a bad pass. And then the second interception he had to the Bears linebacker, that was just thrown right to him. So he could have easily had 4. Maybe you could even argue a 5th interception, but it is what it is. I do know this. He wasn't his best game. His mind clearly was not where it needed to be that game. The Bears did catch him off guard with some stuff. All that is true. But what is also true, the end of the second quarter and then the end of the fourth quarter, I mean, he was laser focused during those moments. So getting other quarterbacks who can do that consistently, the heat of the moment is no longer going to bother them. That is pretty rare. And I think we all need to be appreciative of that part of Goff. Where in LA, could he have done that, what he did against the Bears? Probably not. He wasn't mature enough. He wasn't old enough. He hadn't gone through some of it enough where the one value he really does have is he's no longer the LA Goff. He is the Detroit Goff. He has grown up. He has matured. He's now a 28-year-old guy. He's not a 22 or 3-year-old guy. So all that comes into play. Michael Jordan, good morning, Lions faithful. Good morning to you too. Southwest, I think 44 million is fair. Yeah, I would say so. When I saw the Lions offer, reportedly Lions offer, I thought that's not bad. That's in today's market, fair market value. But I also get the game like any kind of contract negotiation, whether you're maybe not so much with buying cars anymore, but with that or any field where there's negotiations in play. You're going to have 2 people with different numbers. Hopefully they're not egregiously apart so you can find common ground. So I would put out to you guys, if let's say how many of you would be okay with the Lions saying, hey, both parties, Lions and Goff's representation, come out and say, how about 4 years and 46, 47 million a year? Would you guys be okay with that? Let me know your thoughts. All right, Michael, what do you got? Howdy, Dan and Lions people. Love your show and love having you in here, Michael. I mean, I know you're a ride or die. You're in here every morning, and thank you very much for that. So I love the show and all the guys in it. Bergs, I believe he's earned a 4-year deal. I'm okay with the cash. Seems fair. Hopefully, all works out for both parties. Let's go get that division. Yeah, I'm down with that. Let's go Lions. And again, kind of beating the horse here a little bit, but I don't think they're egregiously far apart, and they're just going to table it to the end of the season. I would be very surprised at this point if anything happens before, say, like, I don't know, March or whatever. But if it does, it does. But, I like you're saying, Bergs, the money at the NFL level, I mean, ultimately, we're what, like $6 million apart. So it really just seems like it's the contract length that is the sticking point. But ultimately, probably like most of you are going to say, does this thing probably get done? Yeah. And if not, then let's say Ben Johnson is hired by the Raiders. Lions are going to get some real good compensation from the Raiders for him. And poof, that would bring up another conversation. What is a Goff worth in trade value? What is Jared Goff worth in trade value? What would you get for him? Could it be possible to get a couple of firsts? I don't know about that one, but could you get it like a first and a third and a fifth or something? I don't know. But think about that then, the Stafford trade. Man, I don't want to go there, but all right. I'm sorry. My mind's drifting this morning. All right, James, if I don't make it on the early next few days, have a happy Thanksgiving. Same to you. And I get, I'll do something tomorrow morning. I'll do something Thursday morning. I'll do something Friday morning, but whoever's around can hop on. I get it's going to be family time, travel time, all that stuff. So, James, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. All right, Michael, Lions are 16-4 in the last 20 games. Re-sign him, but yes, curious of the number of years. And that, I would say this, if you think about it at the quarterback position of all positions, $6 million a year separation between both parties, that seems it ain't for me, but I think at that level, it's not a huge difference. It would be nice for, I think, 99% of the rest of the world. Just number of years. Are they going to ultimately get 5 years? Probably not unless the fifth year is a washout year where the team can get out of it at no cost or penalty. Are they going to get Goff for 3 years? Probably not. So it does seem like 4 would be the number. All right, Southwest. You could do a 4-year deal with an out after 3. Yeah, I agree. You could do that. So I don't think they're egregiously, like I said, far apart, but it'll be interesting to see how they hem and haw and work both sides to common ground. Mike, what I got? Missed you yesterday morning, but I still want to remind you all that I called the JMO shot. Yes, you did, Mike. You did call the touchdown, and it was there. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. Hey, Motor City. I when I started watching YouTube stuff, there was a Dose of Dion, and I think your show was called something different than Motor City, but your guys were one of the first ones I watched. And I will say this. If you want to watch a guy who's got great graphics, it's this dude. Motor, you got skills I don't have, so I'm going to give you a shout out here. I think you've got some of the best graphics around, man. You do good work. So if you haven't seen his show, obviously go check out Motor C, man. Really somebody who's passionate about being a Lions content dude. And yeah, he's got some good graphic skills. But to your point, sorry, I got distracted there. Goff is the best QB in the NFL. I told you guys this for years. I won't, I say he's one of the better ones for sure. I'm not going to say he's a Mahomes or anything like that. To me, and you can have your opinion, he can be the best one in the whole league. I'm just going to say, to me, he's not quite there. He's maybe a level or so below, but he is a damn good NFL quarterback, and he's going to do, he's going to be a reason you win, not a reason you lose. So I'll go with that. Renee, what do you got? Salute to Lions Talk Live. Hey, salute to you too, man. Hopefully you're having a good day, and hopefully you're enjoying the show. Manifest my destiny. What do you got? With the potential of CG's return this season, how vital is his presence be for Detroit as they make the push for the playoffs? I think it will be a big one. Assuming he gets his, feet under him and all that, gets back in the flow of things. So let's talk about Tracy Walker. You guys heard me, talk about it. Tracy Walker is damn good at particular things as an NFL player. He's good against the run. I mean, you could even argue he's, pushing towards great against the run. He's great at pounding people. He's, I don't know, average in coverage, maybe even below average in coverage. It's just not his strength. He would be great in an 80s, 90s defense where you could just obliterate people going over the middle. If he could just put all of his weight into his hits and just destroy people, he would have been great then. Today's league is different, as we all know. You're just not allowed to hammer people like you once were. And that's why I think Tracy Walker, it's unfortunate. I mean, he's a great Lion. He's a great teammate. It's just he has some limitations. CJ Gardner-Johnson, he might not quite have the hitting power that Tracy Walker does, but he's very good in coverage. I won't call him great, but I'll say he's very good. And I think that's where the biggest uptick from CJ coming in. And again, assuming he can get back up to speed and all that stuff, because now you put Kirby Joseph out there and CJ and Branch, Jacobs, Sutton. That's a pretty good secondary. Now, can you get some pass rush to where those guys don't have to cover for 4 or 5 or more seconds? Because that's going to be tough on anybody. I don't care if you're great or not, but I do think it would help quite a bit. All right, Motor City, Goff is better than Mahomes. Well, we'll go with that for now. Michael Jordan, they're probably looking and saving money and thought they could have kept him for 3 years cheaper than longer so they can keep talent together. Yeah, and I'm going to use Don Burr's thing, Dollar General Brad Holmes. I get it. It's part of his job, right? He's always looking for ways to save money, get talent, keep the team going. One thing we can say about the Detroit Lions is there's just no glaring holes on this team. You look at a lot of teams and there are holes. I'll even use the 49ers, for example. Their offense, look how much it restricted or became less effective when Deebo Samuel went out. And then some other injuries, really hindered it. Look at the Lions offense. They've had a ton of injuries all over the place, and that thing keeps on churning. And some of that is because Brad Holmes has put a bunch of quality depth on there. The defense, we're all grossly aware they've been obliterated with injuries this year, and that has impacted them. But saving grace, they've had some pretty good depth there too. Just it is what it is. Brad Holmes is always a thrifty shopper, I guess you could say, Dollar General. I do think at some point, though, he's going to have to pony up some money, not just to retain the talent that we have, but also to address some of the concerns on the defense. So good point, MJ. One funky. Terrell Williams is not in the league anymore because Goff got him decapitated on the 12th snap of the season. Yeah. That's also a good point. Yeah. Goff, I think he's definitely grown and developed as a quarterback. A lot of his weaknesses, I think, when he was in LA were more of an emotional component or mental component type thing. But let's also be fair. He was a younger guy. I mean, he was when he first came there, he was 20. And then obviously some of the things started falling apart when he was, 22, 23. That's tough on a younger person, and basically the breakup, I guess you'd call it. A lot of us, I don't know about you guys, but I can only speak for myself. I know some breakups when I was in my early 20s probably were hard on me. And that's really what he went through. He probably felt, embarrassed, ashamed, worthless, in all places in the world he could have been traded to. He was traded to Detroit. Let's be fair, at that point, Detroit wasn't exactly a hot spot for people to go to as far as in the NFL community. But he's emerged from it, kind of risen like the Phoenix. He's a new person. He's the brand new Goff, brand new Lions, and I do hope we keep him for a while. All right, JDC, good morning from the swamps of the UP. Hopefully you're having a good one. Hopefully you're having a good Mountain Dew too. Southwest Lion, Motor City Mana, and you always provide facts/evidence explaining your support for Goff. Yeah, thanks for that, Southwest. Yeah, thank you very much. Motor City, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah. Mike Sayers, the dude from the Cowboys was tough. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Um, Southwest, Dan, I agree on Hutchinson. Give him some rest on some plays. Long season, yeah, and that's kind of the one thing I'm noticing when you're watching, the coaches' film and stuff afterwards. You can see he has lost a little bit of the burst in his legs and his explosion, especially when he's starting to slip and get under the pass blocking. He's not quite winning the leverage game like he did at the early part of the season. And all of that's just wear and tear. I do think that shot on the interception he had against, gosh, who was it when he picked it off and they blindsided? I mean, you guys probably remember, but when he had that interception, I do think that impacted his legs a little bit. When we came back from the bye, he looked fresher for a game or so. But you can see the cumulative effect, especially in playing a high impact position like offensive line or defensive line, that it's having on him. They're going to have to get some more pieces out there, or they're going to shorten his career exponentially. And I don't think anybody wants that. So, Aaron, what do you got there? Hey, Dan, I'm still pumped over the great comeback. Is it better than the comeback over the Cowboys, which we had 4 turnovers? Oof. I don't know, man. I mean, that was a good one. And to be honest, when we won Sunday, I'd kind of forgotten about that comeback against the Cowboys. The only thing I could compare it to was like in the 90s when I mentioned it, a lot on the post-game show. There was a comeback with Rodney Peete, Robert Clark, and those guys. They were down something stupid like, I don't know, 15, 16 points in the fourth quarter with like 5 minutes left, and they came back and won. But to your point, boy, which one's better between the win against the Cowboys or the win against the Bears? I'll probably go with the Cowboys just because record-wise, the Cowboys were a little bit better at that time, I believe so. But both of them are damn impressive, man. And you ain't going to see many games like that, so embrace the ones we have seen. All right, JDC, what do you got? For me, as a Lions fan living here, the Super Bowl is 2 times a year, and they are both against the Cheddarheads. Well, at least you get the double dip, man. And maybe even in rare moments, you get 3 in a season, right? Bergs just watched the Bye Bye Barry. Well done. I'm going to probably watch that over Thanksgiving. I know it came out yesterday, right? Was it yesterday or today? This morning or whatever. But yeah, I'm probably going to watch that over Thanksgiving. So don't give me any spoilers, Bergs. Ryan, pay Goff 45 to 50 million or Hooker $2 million a year. Pivotal questions for a franchise. It is. And I get, so you heard me talk about it earlier in the show. I get the 90s Lions. They were stacked on offense and defense. You could argue. Quarterback play. They had Eric Kramer. They had probably already figured out Andre Ware wasn't going to work out, unfortunately. And there's reasons for that. And doesn't mean to go into this show. I mean, I've stated my piece on that before, but they had a pivotal choice. Keep Kramer, get Warren Moon, get Scott Mitchell. And unfortunately, I think there were 2 right answers and 1 wrong one out of those 3, and they picked the wrong one. So in your point, Ryan, keep Goff or go with Hooker, and that's going to be the big question, right? You could save a ton of money to pay other parts of the team or even add parts of the team if you really think Hooker is the guy that you can go with. And I would say this, if you're going to do that, you probably better make sure you're keeping Ben Johnson, because from what we've seen of him, which is only a couple seasons, he does seem to be able to work things around the quarterback's skill base. And you guys have heard me talk about way too many coaches, NFL or other leagues, are way too stubborn for that to happen. They're going to say, hey, it's this system. This is what I run. You've got to fit that. And I think that's bad coaching. If you're going to go with Hooker, you better have shelled out a ton of cash or whatever you got to do. Chain his family in a house, whatever you got to do. Buy him all the Mountain Dew in the world. But don't let Ben Johnson leave, because if you're going with Hooker, you're going to have a quarterback messiah out there helping get him to improve and evolve. Because even though he's a little bit older, he's still basically going to be a rookie in the NFL. And rookies can be caught off guard with a whole lot of stuff. So I'm guessing we're going to keep Goff, but we'll see what the future holds. All right, the Southwest. AG needs to look at film of top defenses in the NFL, learn from other DC schemes. I would agree. That's part of coaching. Get in other people's ears. Don't be stubborn. Figure out what you don't know, because what you don't know in coaching will get you and your teams killed. All right, John Hooker's insurance going to be cashed in soon. Scary, but possibly exciting. Could be, man. I mean, I guess let's just assume the worst for a second. Again, I'm not reporting news. I'm assuming, just for all the haters out there, I'm assuming, let's say the Lions do end up trading Goff or letting him go or whatever. You do save a lot of money. You clearly have established your stance that Hooker is close to Goff or close enough where you're like, it's not a big drop off. We can develop him as he develops. He might even supersede Goff. I do think, Hooker has a cannon. I think he will sell jerseys and memes left and right because of that last name. I also think he's a mobile quarterback who can take off and run. He's also the one who's had a major injury, and we need to pay attention to that. As a GM or a scout, I would be paying attention to that. Goff in his career, and you guys can let me know if I'm wrong, but I cannot think of any major injuries he's had, either to his, shoulders, his elbows, or his knees or back. And to me, that stuff matters because, yes, you can surgically repair all that stuff, but I'm going to tell you one of the best things I've learned in 30 plus years of coaching. Once that tread starts coming off the tire, it ain't ever coming back. It will never be what it was. And you are more susceptible of something happening again. So I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to make that choice. But if they do move on to Hooker, then you know what? They clearly have belief Hooker is the answer. And what do you know? The Hooker would take us to the promised land. There's going to be a ton of those T-shirts, man. All right, Aaron, I am picking Lions finishing 15-2. Ooh, so we're going to win out. I'm down with that, Aaron. I like that. Don Burry, we've been talking about you this morning. I hope your ears were ringing. Detroit is going to make a trade for Fields to reunite with Montgomery. Brad got tired of Monty giving us hell, and he wept and got him some with Fields. Plus, Brad loves in-division trades. It's almost comical you mentioned that, Don, because there was somebody I was talking with in the chat last night about that very point. And this was before I even heard anything about the contract negotiations with Goff. But I'm going to say this. The idea of someone like Fields behind the Detroit Lions offensive line with that running game and those receivers, I mean, I wouldn't be sad because that would be a matchup nightmare. And the only thing I could compare it to, and you guys let me know your thoughts, the only thing I could compare it to would be Steve Young and the 49ers during those 90s teams. That offense was just so damn hard to guard because you could, if you cover the receivers and the tight ends, or Craig coming out of the backfield or some of the other backs, if you manage to do that, Steve Young could still take off 80 yards and run through people. And gosh, man, I don't even want to think about that. All right, Phil, what do you got? What high school teams are in the finals this week? That I couldn't tell you, man. I know the March to Ford Field is going on. I want to say the 7-man football league or whatever it is, flag football. That's going on right now up until, tomorrow. And then Friday and Saturday are the MHSA regular football finals. So, but who's in? I haven't looked at it, man. I don't cover high school sports anymore, so just not as on top of it. You probably want to check out Scott DeCamp. Look him up because he's been covering it. I know when I started as a sports editor, early 90s, mid 90s, DeCamp started, I want to say 97, 98, and he stuck with it over all the years. So with M Live and the Kalamazoo Gazette, and want to say spent some time with the Saginaw News. So look him up if you want to know, Phil. He'll have all the inside stuff on that. All right, what do you got here? Michael Jordan. Hutch definitely is showing signs of overusage. Yeah, and are definitely a little bit above average, but that's it against bad teams. We are great against elite teams. We hold up 60, 70% time, and now we see what's happening. Yeah, I agree that you got to do something to protect your players from getting burned out and worn out. But I also you got to win too. So the coaching staff's in a tough spot with that. All right, Don. No all seriousness. I'm glad the Lions have a easy schedule. Bull crap is dead. Nothing is easy in the NFL. Nothing. Yeah, I agree, man. There's no such thing as an easy game. Now, to the Lions, did the Lions maybe overlook the Bears a little bit? There could be some truth to that. Did the Bears catch, especially the offense, off guard with some things? I would say there's a whole lot of truth to that. Their defense clearly had a game plan, and we were not prepared for it at the start of the game. As far as the defense, I've said early in the show, I get Aaron Glenn might not be the greatest defensive coordinator of all time, but I do think he made some sound adjustments during the game. You guys can fight me on that, have your own opinion. That's fine. I do think just from what I could see on the film, he did some decent things, at least to limit Fields' ability to do designed runs. The downside of it, though, is you did open up some interior holes for the Bears running backs to kind of hit us with, and that's why they had so many really long drives. So pick your poison, I guess. All right, Scott, good morning, Duke Crew and MCDT from the Canadian Lions fan. Yeah, you had one job, Chiefs, catch the ball and beat the Eagles for us. Come on, man. Have a blessed day, Lions Nation. Let's go, Lions. Yeah, and they were that close, but they didn't get it done. So, I guess we'll worry about the playoffs when we get closer there, but it's still getting their 1 seed, but there's 7 games left. And you're going to need the Philly to lose not just one more game, but you're going to need them to lose one interdivision game, so an NFC game. All right, Phil, doesn't KC have a new OC? I do. Yeah, they do this year because their all-day OC is in Washington, I believe. All right, answer 14, greetings and salutations. Dan in the chat. What's injury situation looking like going into Thursday? I haven't seen any updates. Now, we should get those today, answer 14, right around 4 o'clock or so. Sorry, I looked down and saw Dr. Detroit's next comment. But anyways, yeah, we should get those around 4 o'clock today. But I'm not anticipating anything significant. Maybe there's a surprise on there. I will say this. I'll be surprised if Jonah Jackson plays Thursday just because he didn't play Sunday. I mean, is 3 more days going to make that big a difference? I don't know. Hopefully he can, man, because I will say this, from a blocking scheme assignment, there is a noticeable difference when he's in there versus when he's not. So we'll see what shakes out. Dr. Detroit, yes. AARP, baby. Yeah, I was hoping he would hear that. All right, Don Burt. Johnson play calling is getting a little predictable. I saw some things a mile away because it's the same stats. When St. Brown was in the backfield, I knew the flat route was coming for him, almost a pick six. Yeah. And that's, I think I talked about it earlier in the season when it comes to Ben Johnson. So last year he caught everybody off guard and sleeping because you guys know coaches love to watch tape. They love to break down things. There was very little tape throughout the season to watch up to figure out what his tendencies are. Ben Johnson's tendencies are. But now everybody's had an off season to digest. So you had all last season, you had the off season, you got part of this season, especially teams like the Bears, like the Green Bay Packers, who, you know what? They're not going to the playoffs. They've got nothing to do and nothing to lose other than watch tape and try to get some wins. To me, I hate playing teams like the Chicago Bears or the Green Bay Packers because you know what? They can get away with anything. If they want to go for it on every 4th down, who cares? If I'm them, who cares? Because you know what? We're not going to the playoffs. We can only screw up and win here. And that's really it. They can only make a mistake and win. So that's why, to me, some of these remaining games, they are incredibly dangerous because you're facing people that can go all in on every play. And we talked about that before the Chicago Bears game. Justin Fields scares the heck out of me for that game. And when we play him again, because he's fighting for his career, let alone the opportunity to stay a starting quarterback. He's going to go out and do everything he can to just make himself relevant. So if the Bears don't want him, somebody else is going to take him. And you're going to see, I think, a lot of that going down the stretch here with some of the teams and players. They all know at the end of the season, half the guys need new contracts. Half the guys want to stay where they're at. And nobody really phones it in too much, maybe the last game of the season, but that'd be about it because they all have got to fight for dollar signs and contracts. All right. MDC or JDC. Magic 8 Ball says Lions 31, Packers 26. Another close game. I'm hoping for a blowout, man. I would love just to have an easy Thursday. All right, Ryan. KC had Alex Smith, very similar situation to ours with Goff, and we're winning. Then they went Patrick Mahomes, and the rest is history. I'm learning I'm leaning to going to Hooker after next year. Goff has one more year. Yeah, and there's definitely a possibility for that 100%. And you could be hitting the nail on the head that, if you get the 3-year deal, you got Goff for one more. So that's 4 years. You can probably then afford Hooker for 1 or 2 years, an opportunity to grow. And maybe if he really supersedes expectations, then you can say, hey, we're moving on from Goff or whatever. I just hope he can, I just hope the team makes the right choice. That's end of the line, end of the day. That's all I care about. All right, Dr. D, what do you got? Nobody cares what Syndicate says. He is a clown. Derek is a total okay, clown. Syndicate, all I'll say about this stuff, man, I really don't care if people like me or not. That's one of the better things about getting old. And now that I'm in my 50s, man, you don't like me, fine with me. The only thing I will say for some of the people that don't like some of my videos, then why are you copying the videos? Why are you doing it? Because you're trying to jump on a topic. You're trying to get clicks and views. I mean, I get it. It's part of it, man. But I would say this, it's no different in the newspaper industry. You break a story on something, you know what? When you work for the Detroit News, you break a story, guess what the Free Press is going to do? Guess what the Chicago Sun-Times is going to do? I think you get the point. Everybody else is going to roll with that story pretty quick. So, yeah, it's part of it, man. All right, Dr. Detroit, what do you got? Goff, it's a decent QB, not great. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with him. All right, you got him at a scale 110 as a 7. I got him at an 8. So we'll split the difference and say he's a 7.5. We'll go with that, man. Southwest Lions Goff extension will depend on how he plays in postseason. Could have a good point there, too. He comes out there and shells out, gets us some playoff wins. He's probably not leaving anytime soon. Bergs, I ride with Dan the man. Always been a stand-up guy and treats us all with respect. Yeah, I mean, you guys are good with everything. I know you guys have mentioned that other guys block you or slap you or whatever they do. I just don't get that. You don't have to agree with me, and you shouldn't agree with me all the time. I don't agree with myself all the time. So, yeah, if you guys got a stance or a point on something, by all means, share it. This is what conversations are supposed to be like. As long as we don't get rude or disrespectful towards anybody in the chat or each other, we're good with it, man. Glenn, what do you got? Holmes saw, quote, value in Goff in the trade. Would he view a new contract for Goff as, quote, value? Not sure. Based on his spending track record, I don't think if he's going to be looking to pay top dollar for Goff. And that would be consistent, to your point, Dollar General Brad, that he's always looking to keep an eye on acquiring things, maintaining things while being cost conservative. So yes, I agree with that. Yeah, I guess I don't have the green halo behind me today. Phil, I'm sorry, man. I didn't even think about putting it back there. I was so scrambling to try to get the thumbnail last second, talk to the guy on the phone, get everything worked out that I was like looking at the clock. I was like, man, I got like 4 minutes here. I got to get all this stuff set up. And normally I get this stuff set up, as you guys know, like a half hour or so before showtime. And man, I was doing it minutes before. All right. MJ, you didn't say JJ was coming. You said make your own opinion. They were just jealous. That's people hear what they want to hear. And I repeated this as much as I could during the video and the days afterwards. I can only tell you that both sides talked. I can't tell you they're signing them. I can't tell you they're buying them a house here or anything like that. So to me, I report what I hear. People hear what they want to hear. So go with that, man. Dr. Wright, Dan isn't trying to get notoriety. He is just reporting what he hears. He said it most likely won't happen, but they kicked the tires. Yeah, and would you blame him? I mean, he would help this team. I mean, raise your hand if you think he wouldn't. No, you guys get the point that it's just part of it. And here, I'm not saying that they won't sign Goff, and I'm sure there'll be people that jump on that. Dan said they're not going to sign him. Dan said they're going to sign him to a 25-year deal at $20 billion a year. So it is what it is. Hey, Jennifer, good morning. Good morning. All 5 years, $250 million, Jared Goff. Could happen. So could be just part of the negotiating ploys. We'll see what happens. So, all right, Bit Lady, good morning. Watching from Thailand. Grew up in Michigan. Love the show. Does Goff leave if Ben Johnson leaves? What do you think? I'm pretty sure since their friendship, that yeah, they might try to stay together. I guess you say marriage, just because they do have a very symbiotic relationship. Goff's resurrection is greatly involved because of Ben Johnson and what he's been able to do. Remember Anthony Lynn when he came here? He was when MCDC took over. He was the OC at the time, and for whatever reason, it just wasn't working out. I know Campbell didn't want to get rid of one of his friends. He had to. He promoted obviously Ben Johnson to the current role, and Goff's resurrection at that point began. Because if you look, going off memory here, but I want to say after the offensive coordinator switch, Goff became, during that, whatever it was, 7-8 game stretch, like the number 4 quarterback in the NFL during that time. And that's really saying something for what parts they had there. You also saw the emergence of St. Brown during that time as well. Last year speaks for itself. This year, okay, he's had one, I guess you say, not great game by any stretch of the imagination, but he's been pretty consistent, I guess we could say, for almost 2 full seasons at this point. So your point, a bit, lady, I would say if Ben Johnson leaves, there's probably some potential Ben Johnson tries to acquire Jared Goff. So how long you lived in Thailand, by the way, and hopefully you're having a good one. Metrics, so what do you got? The Eagles were smart enough to move on from Nick Foles after a Super Bowl win. I think the same thing can happen with Goff, especially if he doesn't win a Super Bowl this year. It could happen. I mean, I think we all agree that Holmes, he's a no nonsense type. He's going to do what he thinks is best for the team at all times. So real quick here, boy, we're getting up on an hour here. I'm going to have to get going here pretty quick here. What do we got up here? Bergs, hey, thank you for that. Happy due. Just got a notification that there we go. Boy, moving all around the chat trying to find this thing, but I got a notification on it. But all right, well, Bergs, thank you for the Mountain Dew money. So thank you very much for that. Guys, it's about that time. I actually got to get to work and life. Thank you all. I'll try to flash some quick ones up here just to try to get you guys on the chat. But yeah, I got to get heading out, get the morning dew, and then get on out to work. So if there is some kind of breaking news later today, I'll try to get it over to you guys, of course, as always. If not, I apologize if I couldn't get through all the comments today. Apparently, there's a bit of a backlog. I didn't realize I was this backed up. But anyways, I'm getting distracted here. Thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't yet tuned in or subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. If you would, hit that thumbs up button. It helps out the channel. Otherwise, I'll see you all in the next Lions Talk Live. Take care, everybody.